Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast, the podcast where we take a theme and pick 2 films to fit that theme. This week's theme is overhated directors, bullied directors. I say this tongue-in-cheek, of course. We could just say that the directors we will talk about today are very divisive and sometimes don't get a fair shake. You could argue that because people obsess over them so much that it causes people to hate them. You decide, a moral dilemma, and hopefully the most serious one you'll encounter this week, because it's not that serious at all, and it's just films, and we love them. As always, I'm Jamie, and I'm joined by a guest. You can call him J. Charles Bridgamalan. I just call him John.
Nice.
I don't know about it. All right.
That's all right. I'll go with that.
All right.
I've had worse.
You have. Well, we've gone for all sorts over these. We can say over the years now because it's been that long.
Over the years, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, embarrassing.
So good. You okay?
I am good. Yeah, I'm not bad actually. This is a very early pod. You can see the reflection of the trees in the Podshell sign.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
Sunny. I don't remember the last time. Do you know what? It looks like it's not sunny in here because I've put a light on for when the sun goes down. So now it looks quite moody in the evening. But anyway, all good. Been watching some things, haven't we?
We have been watching some things. You know what I've done?
Go on.
I bought a new kettle, and it could be the most.
It could be
the most middle class thing I've ever bought. It's I have to tell you about it though because it's important, and I must also say my old kettle I had for like 10 years, so it was an old, like, probably cost like 12 quid, and I've had it for 10 years. So I was like, I'm going to treat myself. Obviously, as you know, I do work in the coffee industry, so I'm quite sensitive about the temperatures of water when we actually pour it into our tea and coffee. Let me tell you about this. So this kettle, I've wanted it for ages. I'm just like, I'm gonna just pull the trigger. So it's like a little posh one with like the little spout, and what it does is it's all LEDs and stuff like that. So it's like it tells you the temperature of the water inside the kettle, and you can set the temperature of the water you want the kettle. So for example, for those of you out there who know nothing about coffee, or you think you know a bit, you shouldn't ever put boiling water in coffee. You should put water that is the temperature 90 to 96 degrees. Guess what I can do with this kettle, mate? You can set it to bang on in the middle, mate, 93 degrees. So, yeah.
Wow.
Green tea, you're not really supposed to use water. You're supposed to use water maybe between 80 and 90 degrees. I can set it to 80 degrees if I want.
This is riveting movie chat for...
Well, I'm telling you, mate. I'm telling you. It's brilliant. It's not the fastest boiler in the world, but it does all that, and also you can hold the temperature of the water. So there we go.
I mean, yeah, I'm very excited for you. As someone who doesn't drink any hot drinks.
Yeah, you don't, do you? Yeah, sorry.
No,
the listeners need to hear about that.
Absolutely. I know. I'll have a hot chocolate. That's about it. I just have no interest in tea or coffee. I've tried tea like once in about 2012 and never gone back.
There's a running joke whenever I go around I usually go around to John's nowadays because obviously he's got a small baby, so it would mean like bringing around mine, which we don't want to do. So obviously I go to John's because it's easier. He puts it to bed, and then he offers me 1 beer, and then I wait for his wife to come in from work 3 hours later, and then she offers me the first cup of tea of the night, which is great.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad at offering cups of tea and stuff because as I don't drink.
He doesn't. I don't
think of it. I just genuinely don't think of it. But you get your beer when you come in. What do you want?
Yeah, to be fair, I always get a free beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Free beer on entry. Anyway, that's my kettle. So
we haven't got time for that this week, Joe, because I've actually watched 5 films that are nothing to do with the pod.
Oh my god!
Is it 5? Hold on. Oh no, let's not overshoot. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
But still,
do you exaggerate a lot about amount? Tell us about the films you've been watching, John.
So, I'm very excited because Challenges is out this week, I think. I'm going to see it on Sunday. And in preparation, I've watched Malcolm and Marie, which I've watched before. I don't think I talked about that on last episode, but I found out, and I've forgotten, it was the first COVID production, or a production that went back in Hollywood after COVID.
Yeah.
If I said this on last week's pod and I've forgotten, I apologise.
I don't think you did. No, I don't think you did. No, carry on.
Really interesting, but you can't get it on Blu-ray anywhere. Cannot get it on physical media, so I watched it on Netflix.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's a co-production because it's literally 2 people. There's some incredible acting from both the leads, Zendaya, and I've forgotten the other lead actor's name. It's the lead from Tenet. The only thing is his character is so unlikable.
John David Washington or something.
It's so difficult to just watch because it's basically an hour and 40 minutes of argument.
Right.
But incredibly acted, incredibly shot. But essentially, it's like someone said, it's like someone who just doesn't know when to give up in an argument and just keeps it going, keeps it going, keeps it going.
Yeah.
So that's that.
It's a mighty snap you've got on your finger there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like Thanos. Boom.
You are, yeah.
And then, so Malcolm and Marie, that was great.
Yeah.
I'd probably say for me, 7. 7 out of 10, I think, is probably where I'd go with it. I genuinely recommend it just on the basis of one, of how beautifully shot it is, because it's shot on film in black and white.
Your fave. Yeah.
Marcel Rev,
your fave, yeah.
It does the Euphoria cinematography, but no, it looks gorgeous. And then the next one I watched, a very different vibe, which was also in black and white, was the 39 Steps. 39 Steps is old school Hitchcock. I think it's mid-30s, so it's proper old school. And it's weird. I was talking to Jamie, it's seeing England literally in the 1930s is just something you can't really imagine, and seeing it on film. I enjoyed it. It's all the early elements of the wrong man situation, Hitchcock lights, and then them being on the run and all the things that happen around them. You get some macabre humour. There's some people selling underwear on the train sat opposite a priest, and then the priest tries to have a glance at the underwear. Like, just all these. For 1930s, I thought that was quite risky.
Quite naughty.
But, like a bit naughty, so that was great. And then, I enjoyed that. And then I believe The Saboteur is essentially the same plot, but that's in America. So it's kind of taking the
The Saboteur, yeah. That's the one in my box set, yeah.
I'd like to watch that, actually, again, because I've not seen it for a long time, so that'd be
Let's do
cool. And then the other one I watched was, again, it's so 2 more Hitchcocks. This one is
the Hitchcock episode, really.
We really
genuinely
could have
yeah.
Which was The Man Who Knew Too Much. So again, Hitchcock made this film twice. He made it, I think it was in the 30s or 40s, and then he decided to do it again. And he said the reason he did it again was because he believed his craft was that much better and he wanted to do it. So the idea is basically the film starts and says at the crash of a cymbal, like something like massive can happen. Yeah. And it's all about an assassination attempt. And I was chatting to a friend of the pod, Watch with Beck, about this, and she was saying, and I agree, it's got some fantastic set pieces, some brilliant Hitchcock set pieces, but it just doesn't all hang together. If it wasn't Jimmy Stewart and Doris Day, which, by the way, is an incredible combo to have as your lead 2 actors, it doesn't really hold interest. Like, it starts, I don't know, it's a weird one for me. There's so many elements of it I like, but just as a whole, it didn't really fit, didn't work. Bernard Herrmann's score, love that. Some real Hitchcock drama with just people thinking they're being followed, but they're not, and just, you know what he's like with the sound of the suspense. You get some great stuff. And Jimmy Stewart, I love Jimmy Stewart, and I don't know, it just doesn't quite work. But there's 12 minutes of an orchestra playing, and it's all based around the drama of this set piece and this assassination attempt, and it's so well shot, incredible. Like, even if you just watch that sequence of it, you'll garner a lot. So really,
and which one was that?
The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Okay, cool.
And then finally, I watched another Hitchcock, which was...
Joking, carry on.
Hey, the final one was The Trouble with Harry, which is a very different kind of Hitchcock film. It's a comedy, it's black comedy. Yeah. So it starts with a child, poor traumatized child, finds a dead body in the woods.
As you do.
But it's black comedy, so he runs to tell his mom, but his mom doesn't seem that bothered. And it's basically a load of people think they may have killed this person and then discovering that it wasn't them, and it's just like a trail of finding out. Yeah. But the way everyone talks to each other is really kind of like whimsical, almost like they're not bothered about the death or anything. It's just very like stuff. So it's a weird style, but I did enjoy it. That was recommended actually by...
Do you remember...
Watch It Back.
You know, you said like when you go into the woods and you find a dead body, obviously... That's happened in that film.
Yeah, at the start.
Do you remember when you were a kid and someone would kick the ball in the hedge, and you'd go in the hedge to get the ball out, and you'd come out of a porn mag? Like, do you remember that?
I feel like that was before my time.
Was it? Yeah. So. To
be honest, no offense. There's only like 3 years difference between us, but no, not really.
That's how rude. Yeah. So you'd quite frequently. I say quite frequently. It felt more frequent than it probably was. But several times, you'd be playing football, like heads and volleys or whatever, and like someone would rifle the ball in. You'd be playing against a garage usually, the side of a garage, so like a brick wall, and then next to that garage would be some like hedges. Someone would boot the ball in the hedge. It'd be like, right, you've got to go get that now. So you go in, and then some legend would come out now and again with like ripped up like pages from a porn magazine.
Just
And
sounds
that was,
like Stand By Me. Isn't that what happens in Stand By Me? Or is it the Brothers Collection? I can't remember.
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's Stand By Me. But anyway, oh no, it might. Oh, imagine if it isn't. I'm like, oh, it's one of my faves. Anyway, what a time to be alive, eh? Because that's the only time you're ever going to see that kind of thing, except the top shelf in the newsagent, where you just like, as a kid, like looking up and be like, what's that, mummy?
Speaking of risque, Trouble with Harry has some quotes in it which for like 1950s felt like a bit like ooh la la. So
Really?
basically the lead falls in love. Classic Hitchcock. The lead falls in love with the lady he meets, but she talks about don't say too many things because I get far too excited far too quickly. But for the 50s, it's
oh my god,
yeah, it's proper like oh
wow.
hello. So yeah, that was good fun.
John, that's like, you shouldn't say that on the pod.
No, definitely not.
What was the next film you watched?
And no, that's it. But all I wanted to say about about Trouble with Harry is excellent Blu-ray transfer, like one of the best I've seen.
Brilliant.
I sent Jamie a photo of it. It's all shot in the autumn. It's the most autumnal film I've seen in my life. Like the trees, it's gorgeous.
This division, isn't it?
Yeah. Just so super vibrant. There's the classic. There are some sequences day for night, which are so clearly daytime, but it is what it is. It's just what they used to do, the shadows or whatever. But no, overall, beautifully shot, and I just really enjoyed it. It was nice doing a different kind of Hitchcock. It's still got that dark humour. Like there's shots where like there's a dead body in a bath and the feet just keep showing up. So like people keep having to shut the door as guests come because otherwise they're going to be revealed. So nice to like watch a not thriller, because as much as I enjoyed the 39 Steps, having watched The Man Who Knew Too Much like the day before, it was very similar. It's another kind of wrong place, wrong
you said
time,
this,
and then and I watch Hitchcock's for that, so I shouldn't moan. Like that's what I love about them, and I love that thriller element. But two evenings back to back was probably a bit much.
Quite interesting, really, that we're not criticizing Hitchcock, but interesting that he also has like a very large filmography, and some good ones, some not so good ones. So you wonder back then whether people were as highly criticized as they are nowadays, which we will talk about later.
Yeah.
Because I find it fascinating, really. So let me just quickly run you through what I watched. I watched an absolute banger called Force of Evil from 1948. This was directed by Abraham Polonsky, not to be mixed up with the other one that we hate. This is about a lawyer who wants to consolidate all of his he's got like lots of rackets going on, but he wants to consolidate it all into one big powerful operation. His older brother is one of the small time operators, and he wants it to stay small. But then he prefer not to deal with these like big gangsters that are going to be running the operation. It's like a noir. It's really dark, but there's like some really lovely romantic bits in it. Very swift runtime at 79 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely cracking. It was an Arrow Blu-ray. It's in one of those. Was it Arrow? Maybe not. Anyway, you can find it somewhere. It's either Arrow or it's Indicator, one of the two. But really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the best films I watched last week. I then watched Lisa Frankenstein, which is a new one. So Lisa Frankenstein it's starring Catherine Newton and Cole Sprouse, and it's based in 1989. And it's about a teenager who's got a high school crush. It just so happens that the high school crush is a corpse. It's a comedy. It's really funny. Like it really reminded me of the film Heathers from the 80s. The production design is amazing. It looks like a Tim Burton film at times. Like, so think that vibe, like that Edward Scissorhands kind of vibe. Some really cool needle drops that genuinely evoke nostalgia. And great performances all round, really. Like Cole Sprouse does a lot whilst not really saying anything. A few of the jokes don't quite land, but ultimately, like just very enjoyable. Sadly, I then watched. So I had some mates visiting, and they listened to one of the pods, and it was a pod where I mentioned the film Inside. So we've talked about it twice now. So Kim mentioned it on the pod when she was on. And then I mentioned it because there was a new Blu-ray out of it from Second Sight. It's a 2007 French film. It's the one about it's the home invasion of the pregnant woman. Do you remember? Just so I got back quite drunk at 12:30 a.m. and decided to put that on till 2 a.m.
Mate.
And It was, it's just wild, isn't it? So I'm not going to go over that again, but if you want to see probably the most outrageous film I've ever seen in my life in terms of like graphic violence, then go for Inside from 2007. It's France, you know? They love a bit of extremism. And then finally, well, I watched two. I watched Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which is a 1982 film. We all know it's the one starring Steve Martin. John, I really recommend you watch this because you'd love it. It's basically, so it's filmed in black and white, and it's basically a noir, but so there's a classic like femme fatale visits the detective, and he's trying to basically get to the bottom of this thing that's going on. But get this, so it's got basically loads of cut films. So all the films are cut from like This Gun for Hire. It's got The Killers in there. It's got The Lost Weekend. It's got Sorry Wrong Number. It's got Notorious, Suspicion, In a Lonely Place, The Big Sleep, The Glass Key, Deception. So like I'm basically just naming loads and loads of noirs from the 40s, where basically it makes it look like Steve Martin's talking to these people, and then it cuts to that actual clip in the noir, and they've made it fit the story. So clever, like really, really good. And it's a comedy, very funny. Like it's a comedy. He's not playing it straight or anything like that. So I watched that, and that was really good fun. And then finally, for the first time ever, my subwoofer finally came back. So I've been without my subwoofer for a month now. It's back. It got delivered a day early, which was great. It was slightly damaged because the delivery service damaged it, but at this point, I could not be asked emailing delivery service saying, "What have you done to my subwoofer? I'm very annoyed." So instead, what I did was, "Can you just repair it and send it back? I don't care." I watched The Wicker Man from 1973 in 4K. Now, Studio Canal did this, and the transfer is amazing, and also the artwork for the menu screens, for the actual cover, is beautiful as well. I mean, do I need to go into what The Wicker Man's about? It's basically about a police sergeant who's called to an island village in search of a missing girl, and the locals basically claim that she never existed. There's lots of rituals taking place there. It was a weird blind spot for me, especially as how much I love horror. It's an early psychological horror. Slowly builds to, it's a very slow burn, but like builds to a brilliant crescendo.
St. Maud.
Yes, St. Maud, Midsommar's like ripped this to pieces. Edward Woodward is superb throughout, like really drives the film forward with like the purity of his character, really. But it's like a police procedural, a folk horror, a mystery. It's got a bit of everything. I love the fact that the secluded island is like such a claustrophobic location. And you find yourself becoming like quite frustrated with the locals, but at the same time very immersed in the whole thing. Reminded me a bit of Mark Jenkins' Bait, obviously very different, but you're in with the small fishing town. So great, like really good. And that's all I've watched. A bit of TV. Been watching loads of anime, which is, you don't need to hear about that. But Chernobyl, nearly finished that. 2 episodes left.
I finished Constellation as well, which was very good in the end.
Okay, cool.
I will admit.
Slow burn?
Yes, and about halfway through, I was about that close to giving up because I was getting so frustrated with the lack of answers.
Oh, wow.
And then you get the one episode where it all goes...
Was it a lost situation?
No, not at all, because it actually explained everything by the end, bar one thing, because you've got to leave a hook for season 2, but on the whole, it's if you like Interstellar, if you like 2001, if you like Solaris,
very slow burn.
Yeah, but that kind of like the sci-fi, which is based on an actual scientific idea rather than just being Star Wars pew pew in space, space fantasy rather than science fiction. And that's not a criticism.
Speaking
it's just
true. Of such,
yeah, let's do it.
We are going to talk about this is our Rebel Moon Part 2 Spoilercast, Scargiver, by Zack Snyder from 2024.
Nightmare is is you and I fighting together.
You must know you cannot win.
So I'm just going to start this up front. I'm really disappointed because...
Oh, God.
I know.
He's going in.
I'm gutted because, look, I feel like we were very on the fact of some of the negative criticism for part one felt overly bashing. And I still think there is overly bashing happening here. But
not that much overly bashing, I don't think.
I didn't feel part two actually... I felt like it was building... I felt like the first one's doing the world building, you give it a chance and what have you, and it kind of sets things up. The payoff isn't quite what I wanted it to be, and I think that's because there's ideas for future films which I'm not convinced will actually happen, because I don't think the reception's there for this.
No chance.
So, part one ended with, essentially, they'd gone to these different planets and collected... the different warriors who are going to help defend this planet.
Episode 68 of Movies in a Pod Show. You can go and listen to our Spoilercast. We liked it.
However, at the end, liked it, didn't love it. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Yep, I gave it a 6.
Fair.
Yeah.
I got fed up with people saying it looked terrible and all these things. It didn't look terrible. The cinematography was more than good.
Yeah.
It had plenty of things going for it. I like the world design. I think the problem was we didn't have enough time with the characters, and we said it was a bit like in the first Suicide Squad where you're introduced to everyone really quickly. It's like boom, 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 and then off you go. But you don't really... Core is your main lead to focus into, but it doesn't really give the others enough time to breathe. And this is why I got annoyed with the platform and the choice of delivery, which we'll get into because I think that's another matter. However, part two, I cannot say otherwise. The first hour is filled with clunky exposition and dialogue. Now, in the first film, when you're establishing your world, and you're going to need some exposition, and people took the piss out of it, but Lord of the Rings starts with voiceover. We had this chat before. Dune starts with voiceover. You have to have something to establish the world and set the rules. And you get those things. Part two starts with a voice recap being like, as if you didn't watch part one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fine, is what it is. The nature of being a part two film, there's elements of that. And then really, for the first hour, little happens. And actually, it doesn't make much sense, because at the end of the first film, they've killed Ed Skrein's character. Like, the Admiral who's going, like, terrorising the planet's dead.
Yeah.
So you would have thought, and I nixed this off Mr. Sunday Movies, I'm not going to try and take credit for this, but he said, well, logically, they'd have disbanded. They don't need to protect anything. It's done. The job's done. Like, their job is to protect that planet. They don't need to, because they think the guy's dead. But anyway, by the by, they go to the planet to go and chat to them, and then they work out very quickly. He's not dead.
Weirdly, have a feast.
They have a feast, and then
They've got no food.
There's harvesting going on for a long time. They've got plenty of food. They just haven't got enough to share because the Empire are being greedy. But I'm not going to be too bashy on it.
No. By the way, nor am I. So I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty. Carry on.
However, there are sequences of we've got Jamie messaged me being like, I'm bored, and I knew he was in the first hour, and then he messaged me saying, am I watching a harvest happen in slow motion? And I was like, yeah, you are.
Farming simulator.
So here's where I'm at with this, and then we'll start getting more into it. We'll break the film down a bit more through key sequences and music, cinematography, direction. I just feel like when Zack Snyder was making these films, the pitch was, I want to do like the not Magnificent Seven, the
Seven Samurai.
But he loved, I think it's an 80s version of Excalibur, which had sex and violence in it. 'Cause he hated like the neutered kind of like superhero films or like action films where it didn't have that. So his idea and his vision was to have this. And then it was obviously, we know it was a failed pitch for Star Wars. Then after Star Wars, he was like, well, if I do it with Netflix, I want to do it my way. And it's going to be like 300. It's going to be a 15. It's going to have the violence. This film, and part two more so than part one, felt it was so abundantly clear what was missing. Like, there's a decapitation but cuts away before it happens. Even Revenge of the Sith has a decapitation in it. But anyway, there's like so many sequences where you can tell it's bloodless because it's been literally like the After Effects button's been clicked so it doesn't come on to like not have the effects on.
Yeah.
I said to Jamie, it felt like it'd been cut at the balls, basically. It just felt like the entire vision was having...
The balls have been chopped off it.
Having this idea of being like this really aggressive, macho, whatever you want to call it, this aggressive stance or like this visceral, violent take on a space opera. That's what I want to do. That's what's going to separate it from Star Wars and make it stand above. It's going to be... Well, not stand above, maybe not, but make it its own thing by... Because people take the mickey out of, because of the Imperious and because of this and because of that. Dune has all those elements of nonsense, world building and dialogue. Any fantasy does. Like, you have to go with that. That's part of science fiction. But what you can't give the pass for me is, why do you have a platform? And we've touched on this before, but why have a platform like Netflix where you can literally release anything of any length of time and, you know, and of any rating, and it will do big numbers? And Jamie said to me on the phone yesterday about this, is because they wanted to release stagger the content to get more subscriptions over a long amount of time. So they've released part 1, part 2 in neutered 2-hour versions, and then you're going to get your 3-hour full whack what Zack Snyder wanted in August, which is months away. I just feel like people aren't interested enough to go back to the director's cuts because of what's presented in front of them, which are clearly... It feels to me like when I watched Joss Whedon's Snyder Cut. Yeah. When I watched Joss Whedon's Justice League, where you knew it just felt wrong, like the tone was not quite right. It was clear there were things missing. There's sequences which are like, I might be wrong. I might watch the director's cut and they don't exist. However, after what happened with the Snyder Cut, I'm always in belief there's a lot more. That was filled with backstory and exposition, so I believe it is there.
It's over. Wrong. This is over. And Kate reviews films right in, and she says, "Does Rebel Moon deserve the hate, or is it a public pylon because of Netflix's marketing strategy?" So I just wanted to. That's the reason why I jumped in there.
Sorry,
because
yes.
That was that's a question that is very appropriate for what we're talking about. So.
Well, we're covering it, aren't we? And we're saying, yes, I think it's part of it, but it's not solely. And like Kate and I have discussed this film, and she agrees it's worse than part 1. I think she gave it a 6 of 10, and I think
she gave it a 7.
Oh, okay, take it back. Sorry, but it's frustrating. I just think if you've got Zack Snyder and you're going on your USP and you're telling him he can do whatever the hell he wants, he's got a budget of 167 million, I think it was.
He can't do whatever he wants.
But this is what I mean. I would just wish they'd have just said the director's cuts came out first time. Because, you know, if you've got David Lynch or whoever, he gets his final cut. He won't do it unless he gets final cut. If I was Snyder, I'd have just gone in and said, I want final cut. Done. Like, I'm not doing it if I don't get final cut.
I think that, at this point now, we do have to put some onus on Zack Snyder at this point and say really that, like, he's not like he's not got the money, like, and we'll talk about M. Night Shyamalan, who actually funds his own films. It's not like he's not got the money, and so he's allowed this narrative now to play out from people where they kind of criticize him for the whole director's cut thing, and it is becoming a thing now. And it's not even like to the point of where like Ridley has loads of director's cuts, because actually most of the time the original film is actually quite decent, and it's not completely sanitized or castrated or, as you rightly put
neutered.
Like neutered or had the balls cut off it, because this has. And so I think that Netflix, obviously, the marketing strategy, for me, I think what's happened here is they've said, he's gone to them and said, like, yeah, look, cool, I want to do this. Disney said no. So Disney went and look at the state of, look how low the bar is for them at the moment. So Disney said no. And so he goes to Netflix, and Netflix have obviously said yeah. And then I think I don't know, I'm just speculating, Netflix have probably said something like, he's like, yeah, I've got all these ideas, blah blah blah, and they're like, yeah, cool, Zack Snyder's a big name, and so yeah, we'll let you do it, but what we're going to do is actually we want it to be bring the biggest audience possible. Yeah. So we're going to have it PG essentially, and then but what you can do is you can shoot all the bad parts and all the nasty parts, and then you're good at this. You're the director's cut guy, like so you're gonna add one. Remember what we did with the Justice League? You're gonna you're gonna do that.
But the problem with all of this is, it's kind of like it's fed into the narrative of bashing that he received, which is basically you can't make a good film unless it's the director's cut. So his feedback always is you don't make a coherent plot or
he has to take responsibility now. Though. So I think
he hasn't
written
this on his own though, because you and I were talking about did he write this on his own? Did he do a George Lucas and write it on his own? He didn't. He had two other writers with him, and I've read interviews with them talking about certain sequences and ones they loved, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like I watched that sequence and I wasn't sold.
The writing, I think the writing in this one particularly is terrible. It
felt clunky and it was frustrating because I don't remember the first one feeling clunky particularly.
The first one was like, I give it a pass because it was world building and they were going to collect their heroes.
The conversations felt more natural. I didn't feel
they did, yeah.
Like I know everyone took the mickey because they said, oh, everyone's just stoic, and I was like, yeah, fair. That is a fair comment. They're stoic and then they agree to go. But I didn't feel like... I remember them having conversations, while in this one, I just feel like there's a sequence which apparently Snyder wanted to do this in... there's no point saying let's talk about the plot.
Should we hit the synopsis first?
The synopsis is this. Cora's got the people back on the planet and they have to protect it from the invasion. Like, mate, there's nothing else to say.
But I already know people that are waiting for this podcast. And I mean this. I'm not... This isn't me being Billy Big Bollocks. This is me just saying people are waiting for this podcast because they don't want to watch part 2. So I think we need to basically cover the plot.
Yeah. You do it.
Well, as you said, John, there's not much to do, is it? Cora goes back to defend Velt with her buddies. The baddies come to get the grain, and then they have a big fight. That's the plot. Like, do you know? And do you know? So frustrating. It is. So my biggest issue is, right, I was kind of yet again, because as you say, and what you will get from this podcast, I promise you, is authenticity.
Truth.
I will never, ever sit here and be like, yeah, well, we said we liked the first one, so we have to kind of like the second one. It's just not the case. They're completely different. The second one is... The plot is like basically non-existent and paper thin, and the writing, and for this reason that John was about to talk about, the goodies, the gang are back on Velt. They're there, and they're there to kind of discuss that they're going to get invaded for this corn. And so
they're doing the classic action film, the night before the battle. Let's all have our heart to heart. Fine. Is what it is.
Fine.
Now, the reason this sequence exists, sorry, I wanted to get in with this, is because Zack Snyder wanted, if he ever made his Justice League 2, it's spaced like 10, 15 years ahead, wasn't it? You know, the flash forward with Joker.
Yeah.
And Batman. And he envisioned a sequence where they were sat around a table chatting about all the crap that had happened in the 10 to 15 years. So the story goes. So he wanted to incorporate it in this project instead. I kind of feel like if they weren't chatting around a table and we had these as flashbacks, or they were dreams, or they were anything else,
it still wouldn't be that good.
No.
I'm not accepting it.
Hear me out. The actual cinematography and the shots of the sequences of what's happening are all
they're fine. Yeah, great.
Really good. No,
yeah,
I don't think they're fine. I think they're good.
They're
I
great.
think they're really good.
Yeah.
What I can't deal with is it's just like one person saying, I did this thing, I know it's bad, and the Empire blew everyone up, and then, you know, it is what it is. So it's just like, show it. Like, it's getting into that George Lucas, like, show, don't tell. Like, what? Or if you have exposition, you do it in an exciting way.
He's in George Lucas territory right now.
Yeah, I feel like
and it's not a good place to be.
This is where I feel about it. I always use the example of Terminator is a perfect action film, and Terminator 2, because when they are giving exposition about big lofty ideas, it's during a chase or an action scene to keep you engaged. James Cameron has this very good knack of being like, get the exposition dump while they're doing an action, so it doesn't feel like an exposition dump. Now, the prequels get slated because there's a lot of standing around and talking. And then this sequence felt like that kind of dialogue, that kind of people kind of saying things but not really talking to each other. And it felt like your turn, my turn, your turn. And it just didn't work for me. And I know as well, by the way, he can direct good sequences of that. So I think Man of Steel, I think he's as good as his scripts. And people say it's a Ridley Scott as well. Like, Ridley's got some films which people give lower ratings to, and it's all based on the script. The script for, let's say, Man of Steel, you think about the relationship with his dad, Clark Kent, and I've forgotten the actor who plays his dad, Robin Hood. Kevin Costner. You think about some of the amazing sequences in that between those two, and like the emotional weight they carry. So he can do it, but that's because it's a better script. I think Watchmen showed he was a very visual director, because the dialogue in that's very stilted and weird because it's comic booky. But I even feel like Batman v Superman has much better dialogue and performances. But is that because it has Ben Affleck, and is that because it has? I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but so
I don't know where
the problem
this
is
kind of...
he didn't write any of those films, and he did write 300, which like 300 is actually great, and I love it, and it's one of his best. However, I think that what I don't agree with is again, we'll always be balanced on this pod. Like Zack Snyder's like he's just an artist, because they all are in this industry. He's just an artist, and he's doing what he likes to do, and now he's taken his hand to writing, which is not the first time he's done it. He's done it in both the 300 films. I think Sucker Punch he wrote as well, which again people don't really like that much.
Rate it, yeah.
No. So and people are saying that he's so big-headed and like up his own arse and like pretentious. I don't think he is. Like what I think is happening is that
making his own work.
He's been allowed to make his own work. Yeah. and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But I can't sit here and say it's good. So what I will say is that sequence around the table is, I think that is the worst sequence in any of his films, and I think this is probably his worst film, and that makes me really sad to say, because I really like him as a director, and we'll quickly rate his films later. Like, I think we've done it before, but we have been asked. I think this is his worst film, and I think that sequence is the worst of his films. Sadly, it's hitting you over the head. I felt. I'm sitting there. I'm like, are we actually doing this? Like Zack Snyder, who's directed all these good films, are we actually doing this?
Going back to the neutered by Netflix point, what baffled me more though is they let him do Army of the Dead. What was it called the Vegas one? And that was full blown violent and blood and gore, and like they didn't bat an eyelid. So again, I just find it weird. But that doesn't explain that sequence unless, and we never know. So when you watched Justice League, his version, there were sequences which were reshot, added to appease the studio version. Yeah. I don't think it is that, but I hold out hope. But there are. Let's say in this film, okay. So when you've got Cora goes to bed with Gunnar, right, and they're Gunas, or however you want to say it, and they're chatting the next morning, and she's talking about, again, weirdly, just kind of like, oh, you know who I really am, and then she flashes back to the sequence where, in the voiceover of the first film, we hear about how she was sworn to protect the princess, and essentially, by the way, actually no, she wasn't. Belisarius is like the equivalent of someone who becomes the emperor, and he commands that she kills the princess. So she hesitates, but then does it. But then there's a load of people there, and then they all turn on her and say, "You killed the king. You killed this," because there's a coup. Basically, there's a coup, and she is the scapegoat for this coup, and that's why she's the most wanted. And I said to Kate, I said, why didn't they just start part one with that? You have the opening voiceover explaining the mother world or whatever, and who the Imperium is. Yeah. And then you say there's been building up to a whatever. Then you show that sequence where the coup's about to happen, and you go to the bit where you see Cora's about to shoot said child. Yeah? Yeah. Imagine then, hard cut. So a bit like in one of those films where you don't see what's going to happen next. She's about to make the decision, is she going to shoot her or not? You then cut back to where the film actually started before. Yeah. She's on the planet and she's mysterious, and it's like, you realise it's the same person, but you think, is she there because she did it, or is she there because she didn't? There just seems to be better narrative ways of showcasing what's there. So it's one of those films that would be really interesting. If someone got part one and part two, there'd be a good fan edit where you could solve a lot of things, because I think some of the problems are in editing. Some of it are, some are performance.
Yeah, at the same time, like I do think that regardless of what this director's cut's going to be, which, by the way, I'm out now. Like I can't watch it because I've already watched. I've done 4 hours of Rebel Moon. Yeah, and sadly, I couldn't care less about any of these characters, bar Jaimin Hanzu, who's fantastic.
Yeah, very good job.
He does the best job, and I love him, and I think that he's probably one of the only ones that you do see enough of to care about. And you see that like this, like probably I would say a 2-minute clip each of the heroes, and the reason why I'm fighting is because the Imperium did this. The reason why I'm fighting is because the general spat in my soup and when I wasn't watching, and the reason I'm doing it is because. And
But
so
again,
like
all those things could have been so when you're talking about part one before
Yeah.
you go back to Val, all those things could have happened, but you don't have to know who those characters are at that
Exactly,
point.
yeah.
That would be a good intro.
Of course.
So then when you go on the Magnificent Seven, I keep saying Magnificent Seven, when you go
Seven
on the
Samurai.
Seven Samurai trip of picking them all up, you're like, oh, that's that person. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
ways it could have been structured
And I'm
differently
not-
to make
yeah,
it more
I'm
engaging.
not gonna
And
bash
do you know
it.
what? It might exist. And I still
don't
say
care,
this.
nah, I don't care if it
no,
does at this
I
point.
do.
I don't care if it does.
I care. I'll tell you why. I just think that I remember watching the Joss Whedon Justice League and knowing it felt wrong, and this to me has a bit of that. Not to the same extent. It's not been turned into a comedy and all the
Nothing
weird
will
stuff.
fix this though, to the extent that I
No,
need it to be fixed.
That
That's the
I
problem.
want it to be. The problem is, I think that there's been so many films with unjust criticism on Snyder, and then this one is probably one with it, and it just annoys me. It's during his Netflix reign. But I do also believe that the streaming services directors do get a rougher ride on the whole. I think Fincher's had quite a lot of flack from the industry, and in terms of critical consensus around The Killer, I do feel like there is a snobbery.
Do you know what,
towards it.
right?
But what I would say is, this film deserves the lower reviews, and then it kind of negates that argument.
Agree.
That's the problem.
I do agree. Yeah, I think that these. So Rebel Moon 1 and Rebel Moon Part 2, they're both sitting at a 2 on Letterboxd, like 2 stars, which is like 4 out of 10. Which I think for anyway. So I don't know if I would particularly agree with the streaming. They get more bashed more.
I think they do.
Well, so I think, and that's where we are kind of out of touch a little bit in terms of we're not in touch with average Joe that comes in on a Friday night and films aren't their passion, but films are something that they will drink beers with and order a curry in, and they don't think about it too much because they like films and that's all that matters. And by the way, that's not me saying anything bad about those people. That's just
No,
me
but
saying,
it's a more casual
audience. Yeah.
Whatever.
So the one thing I did find was that a few of my friends I'm the film guy, so they come to me for recommendations. They say, Jamie, what's good at the moment? And I will always be like, yeah, cool. Here's some recommendations. They were saying, so they always, whenever they've watched a film, because they don't watch loads, they'll maybe watch 4 films a month. They'll say, oh, Jamie, like, I just watched this. And that last film that they did that with was Roadhouse. They're like, oh, I just watched Roadhouse. Like, it's got Conor McGregor in it. It's so good. You should. Have you watched it yet? And I was no, I've not watched it yet. I haven't heard it's good. No, it's really good. It's really funny. Like, you should watch it. And so for me, like from a filmmaking perspective, like this is someone's favorite film, and like I say, unfortunately, I don't mean that. Like, I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
So this is someone's favorite film, like, and that's okay. And if you're rating the film on enjoyment and you think it's a 5-star, that's also okay. What I won't do, I can't accept is that I cannot accept with a straight face that this film is an objectively good film. Like, it is a bad film. It's a very bad film, and I was bored. And in the second half of the film, so we get Farming Simulator, so we watch them all slow motion, farming, muscles rippling, love it. And I'm like, yeah, like, maybe I'll go out and garden. Oh, actually, it's like 10 o'clock at night because John told me that we're recording on Wednesday, not Thursday. So I was like, so I'm like, right, a lot of slow motion, like corn and stuff, which I don't mind, all good, but it was boring. And then
but then we do get, which is what Snyder is the best thing.
Let us be.
Let's get the positives
balanced
out there. Thank God. We do get an hour of action, which is what this all built up to, and I feel like this is what we've been waiting for. So you've got a ground assault happening, which is very reminiscent of, the locals know the land better than the invaders, so they've set up traps. They've got weapons and stock from before, so the farmers are learning how to shoot weapons, but they're all surprisingly good at it. But anyway, that's by the by.
Yeah.
And then
that's a bit silly, isn't it?
They get the grain and they put it around all the buildings so they can't be blown up from out the sky.
Because they won't want to damage the grain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then basically they have one like ship they can use, and that's like a assault ship. Like a fighter, like a smaller one.
Yeah.
which Cora and Gunnar use to go to like infiltrate the main bad guy ship.
Yeah.
So, battle-wise, I really enjoyed the battle. It gave myself
So did
a good
I.
workout. I felt that was fun. I felt like I had a few issues with it. There were a few too many sequences where, and again, this is not an original opinion, it felt too easy for them at points. Like, there's a lot of people just walking through and just hoarding through loads of people.
Yeah, like no
So, like,
armor, nothing like.
So, like, Cora goes to the enemy vessel and like gets on board.
Yeah.
But when she's like infiltrating, she's essentially just solo. She's not Wonder Woman, but she's essentially solo walking through. I know she's supposed to be like the best army person or whatever, but like she just seems to be getting a lot of stuff done, almost like with so much ease. It kind of takes the jeopardy away. I needed a bit more of her like being. She has to overcome a thing, so like there should be like a big heavy that she can't get past, so she has to use her wits and like all this.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was like 20
So
guys.
the
It was
one
like,
thing I did
no
like,
problem.
yeah, the one thing I did like about that was, I mean, there was a good idea in there where they put the smoke bomb on top of the vessel to like make it look like it was
like damaged.
Yeah, so I think
I like
that was a
that. decent
decent idea. But you really are a broken clock's right twice a day, you know, like in that regard. I'm like, yeah, we've got a couple of good ideas. I would say that bit didn't even bother me that bit, like, because I could have accepted that. I think that the whole fact that it built up to like what the sad part for me is that the first one was what it was, so I was like, yeah, cool, like it's not as bad as everyone's saying. Like let's just settle
where
down.
it goes.
Let's settle down a little bit. I really want to see where it goes because I'd love to see. What I want to see is like these characters really fleshed out because you've got 4 hours. I've got 4 hours with you, so. And after 4 hours, when I don't care about any of these ones, these characters,
we
that's
know
a
any more
problem.
about them.
That is a problem.
The only thing we know more about them is their flashback to why they went against the Imperium, but it's done in such a clunky way that it makes you not care. And like, yes, the vignettes you see of them are beautifully shot, but it can't get away from the fact that it's being delivered in such a clunky way. It's hard to feel anything. And also, there's a sequence before the battle where they all get their, you know, you're the heart of the team, you're this, you're the... So the locals, like, have weaved some, you know, flags or whatever for them, or like...
Where have they got the time for that? Because
don't worry
they
about
had
it.
3
Don't worry about
days.
it.
They had
Don't
3
worry about
days
it.
to, like,
Don't
chop
worry
all
about
this
it.
corn when it was supposed to be done in 6 months. So where have they got time to, like, crochet?
Being weaving. Oh, yeah, that's the word, crochet. Anyway,
Why are they crocheting flags?
So Sam's giving them out, and she's like, you know, you're the heart, you're the wolf, you're this, you're that. And I just thought, these people don't even know these people. Like, they've not been there long. And I mean, I don't even know these people. I've been watching the film. So...
Wild,
you know, I'm so frustrated because I loved the idea of it, and I just feel like the execution's not there. And
We're not getting any more. No way.
I will watch Director's Cuts. I will, because
you will, but we
I'd
won't
be a
be
lie
doing...
to say I wouldn't, because
You can get another guest on for that.
yeah, it's fine. But I will be watching them. But frustration is the key takeaway for me. But
you know what?
the last hour, in terms of the fight, I did enjoy. Although I've just said about Cora finding it a bit easy, the lighting and like they getting down into the bowel engines, and it's like they have to load coal for the engines to work. Like, it looks incredible.
It looks brilliant.
And she goes up a few levels, and then there's like it looks like Alien and Aliens, because you've got like the flashing like red lights and like the strobe lights, and then as soon as she was running around there, I was like, this is. I kind of felt like I wanted a Zack Snyder Alien film, but maybe that's a chat for another day. But he would have been brilliant for Alien versus Predator. He would have been the person to have done one of those and do them well. But anyway,
Not W.S. Anderson.
No, absolutely not. Unfortunately, we had to witness that. So when she's doing all that running through the corridors, that's all the stuff I'm like, that's the kind of stuff I want. Like, that's the kind of that aesthetic. And it reminded me of the infiltration in Man of Steel when they get on Kal-El's ship and they're like running through, and his dad's helping him through a hologram, and then
Mate, do you know what? Maybe
Frustrating.
it's just occurred to me right now. Maybe the problem with Snyder is that the reason why 300 was so good and he wrote it was because actually he had source material, and with this,
that's a common piece of feedback.
this is made like who sat down with him? Someone is
Two writers.
Someone should have sat down with him and been like, Zach, like.
Shay Hatton, Kurt Johnstad, and Zack Snyder. They've got three writers.
So all 3 of them are wrong, but there should have been someone proofreading this and been like, Zach, this is well shit, man. Like, this is a bit shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Who are these characters?
It's my problem is it feels like a missed opportunity, and as you say, unless we're going to get proper backstory of pretty much everyone they recruited in the first film, it's not going to work, because the truth is you see them but you don't really care about them. But I never cared about Cyborg until I saw Snyder's Justice League. They actually gave him a way bigger backstory. If he's got that, and I don't know if he has, if he's got that for each person, then hey.
At this point, I don't think I care, because I feel a bit cheated, let down, a bit burned, because I was one of his backers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was backing him like all the way, and then he's kind of like, I think at this point now he's played himself. Like all of the people that hate him, he's played right into their hands by
frustrating. That's all we can say. It's frustrating.
Can we talk about the positives? Because
I feel like we were.
I know, sorry, we keep going back on the negatives. It's so bad.
He is a visualist, and what I mean by that is when the source material's right, and the way he paints a frame and the way he lights
it's
it,
visually
everything,
stunning.
It's stunning,
Yeah.
and like there's
The film is
elements and there's parts of that which has this, not all the way through, but there are parts which has it. What I would like for his next project is maybe to go smaller again, we'll have more control and when I say more control, I mean get a script which is maybe not an original, or maybe an IP, something he can adapt, apply that eye to. You know, Watchmen's some of the most visually incredible superhero movies ever made. Like, it's just stunning.
Yeah.
I feel like we need some of that. I don't know if this is a case of a bit like Star Wars prequels. Was it too much control? Was it too many people, too many yes people not stepping in? Or is it the opposite? Is it being cut off at the balls by Netflix saying release the PG version, rather than him being able to say,
I do think that's the problem. Do you know it's the sad thing?
It's probably somewhere in the middle.
You know, it's the sad thing is that, like, you get like people like Scorsese who had to go to Apple. So he went to Netflix for Irishman and you know for a fact the Irishman was 3.5 hours long, and they were kissed his ass and they were like, Marty, do what you want, like do what you actually want. And then he went to Apple because he couldn't get his next film funded, which because people said it was too long and stuff. And again, Apple were like, Marty, do what you want. And I know that you can't compare Martin Scorsese to Zack Snyder, but they've both got a lot of clout, and Zack Snyder's got a lot of clout. So it surprises me that he would bend over for Netflix like this and be the director's cut guy again.
After Justice League, though, his first project was Army of the Dead, wasn't it?
Yeah, his name's on it though. That's the thing. He knows he's getting criticised that then. His name's on it.
Yeah, I also feel like it doesn't. The best fight sequence for me in like a Snyder film, or one of my favourites, is like the Batman v Superman, the fight sequence with Batman in the crates. You know, the infiltration. He's like
that's a great scene. Yeah,
he's so good, and like the chase sequence of the car. This film doesn't have that kind of fight, and even when Corey comes face to face with Ed Skrein's character. Ed Skreein's the best thing about these films, by the way.
So he's
the admiral bad guy. He is the best thing about all of them.
Yeah, Jaimin Hanzu and Ed Skrein are both like they are literally carrying this on their backs.
And he gets his little sequence where he's fighting through the trenches and he's just taking people out one by one. Like, he is great. But when they get their face off, like I did enjoy like the ship's kind of being attacked, it's falling down, so it's like the Titanic, like everything's like falling down. So Cora's having this fight as she's going down at the same time as he is, but he's supposed to have like super strength. I feel like he didn't do that much in the fight. I don't know. It just felt.
I think it's like doesn't. I'm pretty like the only way I can describe it is just a bit beige, man. Like it's beige.
Beige is like a fair. I was genuinely quite upset when it finished because I was just like, I so wanted this to be able to be like the middle finger to the criticism from the previous one and say, we had to set up the world, here's the world, and here's the payoff.
Yeah.
And actually what it felt like was a bit like, there's not much more to
when
this.
The credits, exactly. Yeah, you know, when I realised,
finished, it was just like, you know, when it was like, you know, there's a whole kind of setting up that emperor and you thinking, oh, they're going to go off and do that now, and it's kind of left it high and dry for a sequel, but which won't happen.
Yeah, you know, the realisation for me kicked in to when the big battle started, and I was like, this is it, isn't it? And I was, when the credits rolled, I kind of like sat down on my sofa and I was like, And that was pretty rubbish. Like I'm like I'm quite annoyed, and I was like, I'm gonna sleep on it. And I woke up in the morning, I was like, nah, that was really bad.
We had a call about it, and well, you WhatsApped me in the morning, and we had a call in the afternoon.
Yeah, we had a business call. Yeah, we had a business meeting. I called an emergency meeting. Yeah, I called an emergency meeting
to see what was happening with it. But anyway, yeah, look. None of this is from a position of hate. This is all actually very much from. I do feel like he is overall with his oeuvre, his body of work, his previous films. He is someone who is unfairly bashed and overly criticised. However, it happens to be this film is one of the ones that is actually fairly criticised because, the truth be told, it's not as good. Do you know what I feel like saying? It's not good enough from him, from what I know he can do.
Yeah, it's indefensible.
I feel like in a school report, you'd be like, 6 out of 10 on effort because there's some flashes of what you can do, but you've not given me your full what you can do. that's what it feels like.
Zach's really not been applying himself.
We know Zach's ability. He's an A-star student, but currently he seems to be operating at like a D to C level.
He's really
just getting by.
The problem is,
pass.
The problem is with Zach, he's easily influenced, and he's in with the wrong crowd at the moment, and he has a real big danger of failing. And yeah, sadly, I mean,
he's been easily distracted recently, so we need some course correction. So
yeah.
Anyway,
Zach was caught smoking some funny special cigarettes before writing his report. John, look,
we've got questions about this. I think we need to get into.
Can I just hold on before we finish? What are you rating this out of 10? How many stars are you giving it out of 5?
How many did I give for the first one? I think I said 6.
You said 6.5, and I said 6 for the first one.
It was a 6.
Which is really nice. Look how nice we are. And we always try and be positive. Like, this is not a negative podcast.
So genuinely, if that was a 6.5, then this is probably a 5.5. I can't say 6.
What? You give it a 5.5? I think that's really generous, man.
Do you? I don't think... No, because in terms of the look and feel of the world, it's like great idea, poor execution is how I'd like rate it. So I still feel like there's enough for me to go, I enjoy that, but it's closer to it's probably close to a 5 star of 10, to be clear. Before someone says, John Bridgewater rated it
5 stars out of 5, yeah, 5 out of 10. I'll be honest, when this goes up on my letterbox, and I've kept it a secret, not that anyone cares about me, like I'm not, it's not like I've got new iPhones out here. Do you know what I mean? I'm giving it 2 stars, unfortunately.
A genuine 2-star.
Yeah, I think
that's harsh. But,
I don't, because the reason why I'm giving it 2 stars is because we've seen everything he'd done in the first one, and he's basically done that exact same thing again, but with even less plot and even more.
I don't think he's repeated the first film. I don't think that's fair. I think
no. I mean the look. What I mean is like the visuals of the film and stuff like. That's why I kind of like gave the first one a pass, and I was like, right, okay, this one I feel like it's so empty and vapid, and it was really the first hour of this film is absolutely dreadful. Like, and I'm so generous with scoring, but this I think 2 stars is fair, man. Like, I really do. That's a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
A 4 out of 10. I'm only giving it 1 less than you.
Yeah, it's fair.
Get on the questions. Get the questions in. Sorry, everyone. What a negative week from Movies in a Podshell. John's sitting there with his arms crossed.
So I was waiting for the questions.
Well, I thought you were asking the questions. All right, I'll get the questions.
Sorry. All right. Well, you normally do them. Go on. All right.
It's fine.
No, it's all right. I've got the email up. Don't you worry. Fake Reviews Film says, does... Oh, we've already done that one. Sorry.
You sure you don't want me to do them? Yeah, absolutely.
Kate says, I want to hear Snyder rankings and M. Night rankings. So we'll do Snyder first and M. Night later. So
yeah,
my Snyder ranking, very quickly, Watchmen's top. We've done this before, but Watchmen's top for me, I think it's the most complete work.
Yeah.
I've got Man of Steel second. That's personal preference. I think Man of Steel, good script. I think it's executed well. It's not everyone's vision of Superman, but I really enjoy watching it when I watch it. I've actually got Zack Snyder's Justice League third. I know it's like best part of 4 hours long, but I just absolutely adore the fact it exists. I'm never bored of when I've watched it 3 times and I've never bored of it, even despite the length. I just like being in that world. And then,
that's what she said.
Unsurprisingly, number 4 is Batman vs Superman. Again, the director's cut version, because I just thoroughly enjoy his take on those characters. That trilogy, essentially. Jamie, top. Oh, that's only 4. But anyway, Top 4.
Well, so at the bottom of the list is Rebel Moon Part 2. Second bottom
Rebel Moon
would
Part
be
1.
Rebel Moon Part 1. Then after that would be Sucker Punch. Then after, but I would like to rewatch.
You need to
Sucker Punch
rewatch Sucker
because it's been a
Punch,
while, and
never
my,
finished it.
my girlfriend at the time, I got a real hard time about watching that film,
Correct.
and maybe that's one of the reasons why we're not together anymore. R.I.P. I mean, she's not dead. I don't think. I'll stop. Whoa, what's wrong with me? Delirious. So then I would probably, after that, I would probably say that it would be followed by Zack Snyder's Justice League. Then I would say after that, Batman vs Superman Ultimate Big Bad Boy Edition.
Yep.
Then I would say probably 300, then Man of Steel, then Watchmen. Oh, sorry, Dawn of the Dead would be Dawn of the Dead would probably be after 300.
I've not done that film yet.
Dawn of the Dead's brilliant.
That's there for me.
That's like old school Zack Snyder. So yeah, and there you go. And I think that it says a lot, really, that I've not seen Army of the Dead. I think that he is sadly on the downtrend, but also so was M. Night Shyamalan, and arguably he's made a few decent films lately, so we'll talk about him in a minute as well.
I think the other questions are probably more related to linking to the second film, so I reckon we should go into the second film before we cover those questions.
How exciting, John.
So let's do it. So we're going to talk about The Village.
We have always had, since the day we settled here, a gentle understanding with the creatures who live beyond our borders. We do not stray into their woods. They do not come into our village.
The Village, 2004, M. Night Shyamalan. I'd never seen it before. I've seen pretty much his whole filmography. This was one of those films that had kind of... well, I don't know at the time. 2004, what was I doing? I was in year 10. I was probably getting ready for my GCSEs, messing around.
Watching Alien vs Predator.
Watching AVP, watched that in the cinema actually, but I didn't watch The Village for just whatever reason, and why not?
Can we talk about the cast of this film? So this is one of those casts where you look at it and you're like, years later, a lot of them have become more famous, so it seems even better. But like, so Sigourney Weaver, William Hurt, Joaquin Phoenix, Bryce Dallas Howard, Adrian Brody, Brendan Gleeson, Cherry Jones, and then
Jesse Eisenberg in a little
Jesse
bit.
Eisenberg in it.
Yeah, one of his first roles probably.
But yeah, I just, the opening credits came on, I was like, bloody hell.
You know why though? You know why? Because
M. Night.
You can argue he's got this cast because he's just come off the back of The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs. So I imagine at that time, I didn't know. I remember as a kid, Unbreakable and Sixth Sense were massive. I went to see Signs at the cinema. He would have been at that time one of the hottest directors in Hollywood by far. He went on to make 4 pretty bad films after that, minus Lady in the Water, which I haven't seen. So he did make
Lady in the Water gets absolutely trounced. I've not seen it, but I've heard that's like the worst one. That's like the,
does it?
That's the one you like. That shall not be named.
Oh, I don't know about that though, mate. Because so you've got Lady in the Water
and The Happening.
Then you've got The Happening, which I also saw The Happening in the cinema.
Happening's got great clips of Mark Wahlberg. If you just YouTube Mark Wahlberg, The Happening, there's so many funny bits from that of just like bad acting, bad dialogue, the works. But anyway,
well, look, he did The Happening. He released The Happening and Lady in the Water, and then The Last Airbender, which was off the much beloved anime, which again, Last Airbender was dreadful.
After
Earth, which
he didn't direct that though.
Was After Earth the one with the weird shutter speed where they did the 120 frame shutter speed?
It was Jaden and Will Smith, and Jaden tried to get himself emancipated after this film because his dad gave him all the directing advice, and then he fell out with him, but then they didn't do it.
Oh wow.
Basically, Will Smith directed that film. There's a whole thing about M. Night did the blocking, so like, and the staging and like picking the camera angles essentially.
Yeah.
But all the direction of the actors was given to him.
Which Will Smith film am I thinking of that had the
Gemini
really
Man.
fast shutter speed?
Gemini Man.
Who?
Gemini Man.
Gemini Man. Sorry. Gemini Man.
Said it 4 times. But
I know.
anyway,
Well, yeah. After Earth has an amazing. I'll tell you one thing. After Earth has an amazing trailer, but then I heard it was absolutely terrible.
I saw it as well, and it's one of those films. Like there's a great post I've seen before. It's like the best trailers for some of the worst films, and there are some incredible trailers, or not even worst films, but just kind of really good at mis-selling.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. So it's really interesting. I just went to go and see what the synopsis was on IMDb, because we usually look at that for reference for like a spoiler-free one, but it's really hard to do. So it just says a series of events test the beliefs of a small, isolated countryside village.
We are gonna spoil this.
We have to. There's no way
how
not
can you
to.
How can you talk about M. Night Shyamalan without talking about the reason why the film's good? Film could be absolute 90 minutes of shite. Last 5 minutes, amazing twist. I'm buzzing.
Done. Yeah. So let's talk about the fact. So some other great aspects of this film are James Newton Howard's score is amazing at the start. Like, just sets the vibe of like, it sounds like, oh, it's nicey, creepy undertones.
Yeah.
Oh no, like something's not right here. Like, instantly sets the mood. And then you see director of photography as lead cinematographer Roger Deakins.
Crazy.
So you know you're in for a banger. Use of colour in this film. This film gave off some autumnal vibes actually as well.
Absolutely, lots of yellows and reds. Love it.
Yeah. So a few pop bits of trivia before we get into kind of discussing plot. The role of Lucius Hunt was played by Joaquin Phoenix, and it was specifically written for him in mind. I thought that was quite cool.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Always like that. And yeah, let's get into it.
A few bits of trivia. One bit.
One bit. I just want to say, and obviously M. Night gets a cameo in this. He does his little Hitchcock moment.
Yeah.
He's in a reflection, and I enjoyed it. So we start this film, and we are in the 1800s, and it's in like this kind of really old school American. It's not a town, is it? It's a tiny little village, and in this village they have like a hall ran by the elders, and the elders are played by Sigourney Weaver, William Hurt, Cherry Jones, Celia Wetson, Frank Collison, and where's the other one? Can't see them.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, they have the village elders, and the village elders say, we have this lovely way of life, but we just need to make sure, if you see the colour red, there's red berries in the surrounding forest. And say, if you see the colour red, you need to turn back, because that's the bad colour. So at the start of the film, we see a few things where a red plant, or they see a red flower, and people instantly kill it and bury it, because they just think, oh, red is a bad colour.
Yeah.
And it's conditioning them to not go to the boundaries of where they live, essentially. And as it's the 1800s, there's lots of fire lit in the evenings, no electricity. So it's very, very claustrophobic feel, very kind of creepy vibes, isn't it? And basically, we follow a family as they go through their wedding. So the lead character is Bryce Dallas Howard, who plays Ivy Walker, but I'm trying to find where her sister is on IMDb currently, because her sister is Kitty Walker, played by Judy Greer.
Yeah.
And it starts with Judy Greer telling everyone that she's in love with Lucius Hunt, played by Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then guess what? He's not bothered about her, but because he's in love with Bryce Dallas Howard, her sister.
And rightly so.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry.
We haven't mentioned Ivy Walker, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, is blind, but she talks about in the film how she can see some people's colours through their personality. So she won't ever tell Lucius, Joaquin Phoenix, what colour he is, but she can always sense him. And there's a few nice scenes where they're out playing. It's, when I say playing, it sounds weird, but it's very.
Did you come out and play?
Because it's the 1800s.
Did you ever go out to play, John? Did your friends ever knock on the door and be like, "You coming out to play?"
I live miles away from anyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. You didn't have people in the street that you used to play with?
Nope.
Mate, our street was our street had, our little council estate was honestly, crawling with little tyrants. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
There wasn't really anyone my age. But anyway.
Yeah, you had your making box though, didn't you?
I did have my making box, and I had a VHS player with loads of films, so I didn't care. And there we go. And yeah, we witness a few things, so we get to see how they live, you get to see how they hunt, you get to see a wedding, but some creepy things start to happen. This keeps being some shredded pigs or livestock,
foxes,
and then the elders keep saying,
de-skinned.
all this only happens when we've upset them, but we have a truce with them, so as long as we stick to the truce, it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, basically it starts to happen more and more, and they come and attack after the wedding. We're not quite sure why. And Adrian Brody's character, Noah Percy, he basically spends a lot of the film with Ivy, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and he obviously, I think she sees it as kind of like either a paternal or like sisterly relationship with him.
Yeah.
But he obviously has other ideas. And Lucius Hunt, Joaquin Phoenix, eventually reveals to Bryce Dallas Howard that he is in love with her. And just as they're getting it together, something happens. He is stabbed, and he's stabbed by Noah. And Noah stabs him, and it becomes this whole, we can't go to the towns outside this village because the towns, everyone's murdered or they're raped or they're killed.
Yeah.
Like everyone's told all the time, murdered.
This is what happened to blah, blah, blah.
This is what happens to so and so because they went to the town. This is what happened to so and so. So previously Lucius has wanted to leave, and everyone's kind of like, oh, silly Lucius, like you don't want
He wants to leave because he's kind of curious, isn't he? Like, as people would be, like the almost like
to kill the cat.
Yeah, Eve, like biting the apple. Is it Eve that bites the apple, or is it Adam?
Eve.
Eve.
And
you said that with authority.
Sorry. And then, yeah, Ivy wants to save him because obviously he's bleeding out and he needs medical treatment.
Yeah.
But they say go to the towns and you can find the medication he needs. Now, she's not afraid to leave. Well, she is afraid to leave the village, but we find out she's shown to where we think basically they're being attacked by creatures. And it was sold at the time and marketed as a creature feature, which very much upset people.
The creatures do, but we do see the creatures before this. They do invade the town briefly.
Yeah.
So the creatures invade the town, and like they've got to hide in the basement. So it's very scary. Like, and that's when you get this like, that's when the score comes in. It's a very inquisitive, plucky string. Like it's really good. So yeah, that they do get invaded once, and everyone's like, oh my god, what's happened? Like, and then in the morning they have a town meeting, that kind of thing. Like, why are they coming? And they're scaring everyone. Yeah.
But the reason it's important to say the reason that they're attacked is because people have been testing the boundaries and going towards the colour red.
Yes.
So the reason they're attacked is because they've gone too close to what that boundary is. So that's the justification. And Lucius feels guilty, again played by Joaquin Phoenix, because he's the one who's been too curious. He's been with Noah in the woods and they've been straying too far. And for that reason, they've angered the creatures.
Yeah.
But as this is M. Night's, this is all a ruse. We find out that there are no creatures. It is the village elders roaming around pretending to be creatures to discourage people from going outside of the village.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they've got costumes. These creature costumes.
They look like
wear.
giant hedgehogs.
Which I was like, oh, that's an interesting little twist.
Weird, but like, you know, and they've got like Wolverine fingers or like
not one of his best
hands.
twists. That's what I was kind of thinking at first. I was like, a bit weird. Like, oh, and a twist quite early as well. We've got 40 minutes left.
Can I just say I love so after that, when Ivy goes into the woods again, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, she's blind and she's with two people, and she's like, it's okay guys, we've got the magic rocks. Do you remember? And they're like, why have we not heard of these magic rocks before? And the way they talk is like old English, isn't it? It's very we haven't heard of the magic rocks before, so why
cast those rocks away? Like,
you know, why do we know about them now? And like all this stuff, and like anyway, so she's being chased by a creature, and she falls into like a trap, which is like a hole in the ground filled with muds, but she manages to get herself out. Yeah, but she's being chased by a creature. Of course, she thinks it's a creature, so she gets someone killed in there.
So I must say, sorry, can I just say, like, at that point, I was like, are the creatures, are they real? Like, what's going on here? Like, because she's being chased by a creature, and it's like, it feels very like she's actually being chased by a creature. Yeah.
And then it turns out to be Noah, her obsessive friend / wannabe lover, I don't know, who's been following her. And
Adrian Brody.
She's really clever because she knows where the hole is in the ground.
She does.
She goes back to where it is, and then she allows him to chase it to that point. and then she stops at the edge, so he falls in and he dies. Which again, another good plot twist. Cause
kind of deserves it as well. Like you kind of happy
like,
to see him die.
Yeah, and because he stabs Joaquin Phoenix, and then it keeps going. So she's traveling in the color yellow. Yellow is good, and why is yellow good? It's like the protection color, is it? Or something they say.
Don't know. It means hazard to me.
Well, they say it's for protection, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then Bryce Dallas Howard finds like the barrier at the end and walks out, and it turns out it's modern day. They live in a remote community in the middle of a national park, and smart arse over here, me, said, "Oh, well, they must have no flight path over there then." And it is answered that basically the leader of this village is William Hurt's character, Ed Walker, who is the father of Bryce Dallas Howard in the film. Yeah. And his father was a billionaire, and he died in an argument over money. And essentially, the reason he set up the village was like all the people who founded it had suffered traumatic events. They'd either had loved ones killed, or like there'd been some horrendous incident. They all went to group counselling together, and after the group counselling, he said, "I've got this idea." And he is a professor of history, American history, and he's like, "I think they had it pretty much down in the 1800s. Let's just go back to that. Let's do it. Like we can do that."
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They pick a remote part of Pennsylvania in a massive national park, and you find out that M. Night Shyamalan's a dodgy warden who says, "We don't ask questions, we leave them alone." It's the easiest gig there is, but someone's a normal guard's on rotation, and he sees Bryce Dallas Howard, and she looks like something out of the 1800s, and it's just
quite like that explanation, to be quite honest.
I remember the first time I saw it, be like, "Oh my god!" Because people were angry at the time. It was advertised as a horror film and a creature feature horror film, and the original designs for the creatures were different in the trailers than what appeared in the final film. So people felt really misled, and I get that, but I'm not being funny. If you go into an M. Night film thinking you're not going to be misled, you're a bit stupid, aren't you? Because it's kind of his entire bag. But showing something that you don't then see is annoying. But that's the twist. That's the big reveal. I thought the way it's depicted, I thought was done really well. I didn't feel like people criticize M. Night for clunky dialogue. I felt like this film didn't have that. I felt like it naturally progressed. I felt like people felt like they were having conversations. I love Sigourney Weaver has like this undying love for like William Hurt's character, but he's married, so he can't. But like, she has all these sequences where you can see she wants to break her oath and be with him, but no, she can't. I love there's like a nice tenderness to the relationship with Lucius and Ivy. Again, Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard, because she's the forward-thinking one. Like, she's the one like, "Why don't you just tell me you love me? Because like I know you do, and I know you feel this way." And he has this speech of like, "Why must I be in a world where you come forward all the time? Why can't it be my decision?"
That's my
favourite. I'm sounding it in like a petulant. I make it sound petulant, but it's actually quite an emotional. He obviously struggles to be come forward with things. Like, he's obviously shy, and she's trying to bring him out of his shell.
That's probably really my favourite scene.
Like,
the scene between those two is actually quite what's the word? It's a rare scene from M. Night Shyamalan, like in terms of like how well written that is, because he does always write and direct his own films, and so it's actually really interesting, like, because it's a good comparison really between Shyamalan and Snyder, because they're both, I mean, I would say neither of them are the best writers in the world in terms of like dialogue, but in Shyamalan also is capable of writing some pretty honking dialogue. Please see the film Old, which I actually still enjoyed, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, no, so this is crazy, this film. Like, I didn't know, as I say, I'd never seen it, so it was a slow burn, and it's kind of a mystery, and you do think it's a period piece.
I don't think it's that slow, because it's an hour and 40. It's pretty... pretty... No? Okay.
No, I mean, we find out the twist with 40 minutes to go, so like maybe it's an hour, like, so it's a very much like, when I say slow, like there's no action or anything like that. There's not really any peril or anything. Fair. So it's just a straight period piece drama mystery at that point, and you're like, by the way, when I say it's slow, like I don't mean that's not a criticism, it's just that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's a slower pace.
Yeah, but yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard is the standout here for me. Like her performance at the age of I think 21, and also like just being I don't know, like blind as well, like, and showing all that emotion and the way she's reacting to things, and she's a fantastic character.
She was cast after he saw her in a theatre production as well, so I believe this is one of her first feature films. I believe. I need to check back.
Okay, cool.
But,
I mean, it's important to note as well. Like, I mean, it is an important part of the film that Noah, played by Adrian Brody, I think he's described as having learning difficulties. So there is, and I think John mentioned last night actually that this film was heavily criticised for the depiction of Noah. But what we see is basically the scene I found the most powerful was the scene when people start to find out about Ivy and Lucia's intention to marry, and obviously Noah is in love with Ivy. Kitty's upset, Noah's upset because he's got feelings for her, and Noah basically just turns up, and like Lucius turns around, he's like, oh yeah, but Noah, like sometimes these things happen, like this is the way life is, like, and obviously down. Noah does has learning difficulties, so throughout the film I don't know, I would say that maybe his mental age is younger than he is. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but that's
the way it's presented in the film.
That's the way it's presented. Yeah, it's presented that he's a grown man, like in his probably mid to late 20s, and he has probably quite a childlike nature. So that's just the way that is. But that scene is really,
when he looks down and he's being stabbed. But what's brilliant about
the music's silent. There's silence. So
originally there was a sound effect in there, and the MPAA told them to remove it to get the rating down. But then the director said, actually, it made the scene so much better, the fact it is silent, because you're unsure. It's kind of that, you're unsure if it's like a dream sequence or it's kind of got another worldly feel. And there's another sequence, when they're attacked in the village and they're in the house, and Joaquin Phoenix is trying to pull Bryce Dallas Howard down into the bunker to like make sure she's safe. It slows down. It's on this really weird wide shot. Do you remember it? And it's kind of like the only time slow motion is used to my memory, and it's such like a dream-like kind of and it feels a bit nightmare-y at times because it's kind of idyllic images, but then mixed with like that kind of culty vibe around it.
You really wonder what it is, like with the whole like with that, like that scene for me was when that scene happened, I was like, oh wow, like he's like when Joaquin Phoenix, he was very big at the time actually, because he would have been around the time of Gladiator, really, after Gladiator and stuff. So big actor at the time is being killed off again, like really far towards the end, and it's just really unexpected. The silence, I think silence is really powerful in films, like, and I often use when I say silence, I mean lack of music. Like I often use Dark Knight Rises as an example, when Bane is beating the hell out of Batman and there's no music. It's just the raw like punching.
Well, that's to let you know Batman's in trouble, because you're not getting a heroic theme. It's just saying,
it's brilliant. So that and the way this uses kind of like silence is like kind of like, oh, like this is not right. Like it's very unsettling. Yeah. We do get a few like Oppenheimer style shots of like Bryce Dallas Howard, like very close up of her, faces, like very emotional. And when we do find out the twist of the fact that the elders are dressing up as the creatures, I was like, if that's a twist, that sucks actually. Like I wasn't too pleased with that. But then coupled, I think, when everything is all said and done, bringing it all together, the fact that the billionaire has like made the community and it's policed and it's modern day, and they use the creatures to stop them from venturing further off. I think it's genius. I think it's really clever.
Apparently, they almost got in trouble. Someone tried to sue because it's very similar to a book which exists about a community living in the 1800s, etc., etc. But
I thought it was. I thought it was great. Like I really enjoyed it, and when I was looking at it, so let's quickly then rank.
I'd give it at least a 7 out of 10.
I think 7 is perfect. Let us rank then.
I've not seen many.
M. Night Shyamalan. So the only films.
Can you do me a favour? Can you do the list? Yeah. Right. List the ones you haven't seen as well, but you do your list and I'll chip in, because I haven't seen that many, so there's no point me doing a list of my top
so
thingy.
I haven't seen Praying with Anger, and I haven't seen Wide Awake, which was first 2 films.
Nope.
So the other ones I haven't seen were actually his really poor run of form. So 4 films in a row that weren't great: Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, After Earth. Haven't seen any of them. So my list would be right at the bottom, and quite a comfortable bottom of the list would be The Happening. Oh, sorry, I have seen The Happening. The Happening is at the bottom of the list. Do you know what? That says it all, really. Like, I was like, oh, I haven't seen that. The Happening is at the bottom of the list.
No.
Yeah, The
Are
Happening is
you
at the
going
bottom
to
of the
kill
list.
me in my sleep?
Yeah, a close second
So
bottom
good.
would be The Visit. And the reason for that
Not seen it.
is, oh God. So the reason for The Visit, I think I gave it 2.5 stars. There's a kid in it that completely ruins the film. And there's this like kind of like thing about M. Night Shyamalan where like he likes like rappers and stuff. Like, it's really weird. Like, so there's this kid in The Visit that like you literally like you hate him with every single bone in your actual body. So yeah, I don't know what the kid's name, but yeah, he's annoying. So The Visit is a close second bottom. Then it gets a bit more dicey from there on in, actually, for me. I would say probably third bottom, but I actually really like it, would be Old. So Old from 2021 is basically about a family on a tropical island, and they're like, everyone's really rich, and they go to this secluded beach, and they get trapped there, and they start aging really rapidly. So like you see them like aging throughout the film, like really rapidly, and time's only passing like hours at a time. And yeah, like it and the mystery behind that, I just really loved it. But the problem with the film, I give it a 7 out of 10. Like, people hate it, and it's very divisive. I mean, it's a 2.4 on Letterboxd, and I give it 7. Like, as in
Hilarious.
It's a 2.4, but I give it a 3.5. The dialogue is not good at all. Like, the dialogue is very poor in it, and it's pretty honking in places. There's a guy called there's a character in Old he's got a really stupid name. I can't remember his name, but it's dreadful, really. Let's have a look. Guy Charles Trent Adult. His name is something like, oh god, I'm going through it all now, and it's loads of different actors for the his name's Mid-Sized Sedan. So there is a character called Mid-Sized Sedan, and he's like a rapper.
Tells me all these, yeah,
it's just, put it this way, I would still say to people like, look,
that's not his real name, surely. Mid-size sedan.
It's like his rapper name.
Okay,
but it's just really like obnoxious.
So
anyway,
that's Old.
Yeah, so that's Old. So then I would say after that would probably be maybe Knock at the Cabin would be after that.
See it.
Then The Village. Oh no, so I'd say Knock at the Cabin, then Glass, then The Village, then Split.
Split I liked. Saw that.
I think Split's
7 out of 10.
So I would say Split, Signs, Unbreakable, and The Sixth Sense are all brilliant. I would then say, so I would say the ranking of his top 4 films would be Split at number 4, The Sixth Sense at number 3. That's only my personal preference. I think really the top 3 are completely interchangeable. I just think that Sixth Sense has been like ridiculed, and it's a meme at this point, and I think it's kind of, yeah. So at this point, that's kind of where I'd put it. But I understand if people say, nah, Sixth Sense is best film, I get it. And then top 2, I'd probably say that Unbreakable is probably his best, and Signs is probably second best. I've seen Unbreakable the most, though. So in all fairness, I don't feel comfortable ranking them really without seeing Signs again and without seeing Sixth Sense again. But
I'll watch some of those with you, because I've really not watched any of his filmography.
Yeah, what ones have you watched out of his filmography?
Barely any. Like, okay, so I think I saw Signs back in the day, but
can't remember.
Like, cannot remember it.
Yeah.
Do you know what's really hard as well, and don't laugh? Remember the scary movies at that period used to take the piss out of all these films?
Yeah.
There's so many that you feel like you've watched, and you're like,
shame in it.
Did I actually watch the original one, or did I just watch the thing? So Sixth Sense I've seen,
yeah,
but again, many, many moons ago. Split I saw at the cinema. I say enjoyed it. It's probably not the right thing to say for Split, but I thought it was very good.
Split's brilliant. Yeah.
After Earth I saw at the cinema, which again I thought was good. And then
you thought After Earth was good?
No, I did not. I don't know why I said that. I'm just clicking through his list.
Just double check.
Do you know what though? Because it's sci-fi, I'm a bit of a sucker for sci-fi. I just went with it. I didn't get as offended as a lot of people got. But
yeah.
So not many, to be honest. I haven't seen Unbreakable. I need to see that, and I need to see the modern one he did after that. I think it was Glass.
Yeah,
Like to see how that one looks.
Glass is good. I'd say it's probably the weakest out of the trilogy, but it's still good.
I think James McAvoy carries Split, doesn't he? He's just really, really
Yeah,
good.
he
And
does.
he does like 20 characters or whatever he does. So there we go. Cool. We had a question in from. Oh, where's my chat gone, Jamie?
Well, let me just tell you one thing at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
The visit.
Okay.
The visit was the budget was 111 million, and it made 256 million. Insane. So yeah. So crazy.
Speaking of dialogue, it's hard to defend some of M. Night's egregious dialogue. Can a couple of good ideas outweigh the legitimately poor ones? Name some cliches and tropes that always stand out to you.
I think so. As we've already kind of demonstrated, like there are times when good ideas can outweigh bad dialogue, I guess. So I think that Old was a good example that I've used already. I think that the part one of Rebel Moon is one that I don't think is particularly fantastically written, but it's all right. Again, it's all right. I do, yeah. If the writing is, as long as it's not absolutely awful and things don't make sense and that kind of thing, I think that great ideas and good action set pieces can
Look at the Star Wars prequels, guys. It's got enough positive things around it to make up for the
fun enough, isn't they?
make up for some clunky dialogue.
Yeah, and I guess my West tropes, as everyone knows, like my West tropes are like, yeah, computer hackers, like people just hacking the
And-
mainframe like within about 2 seconds. Does my head in.
When it's a film when it's like they seem surprised when actually they would have heard them a mile off. So one is like helicopters appearing in films, and they're saying like, "Oh my god, there's a helicopter!"
Oh
just
yeah,
happens
it
to come into
comes up.
frame.
The helicopter
And
just
it's
comes
like,
up at the building.
did you not
yeah.
hear it? And then the other one is in the end of Jurassic Park when the T-Rex has obviously had to like stomp in there, but everyone's gobsmacked that there's a T-Rex in there and they haven't heard it.
Yeah.
Wild.
I'd
But
say
do
the
you know
West
what,
tropes
though?
as well is like normal rom-com tropes is quite annoying sometimes, like when it's like rom-coms are very, very formulaic, where it's just like
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's
the
like
two
comfort
people are
food.
together, and then
Yeah.
something happens, and then they're upset, and then they get back together. That's why like stuff like Harry Met Sally is like brilliant, you know.
He stressed me out with that film, but we'll go on about that another day.
Yeah.
So that's that one, and then we have another question, which is in regards to finally, are you guys buzzing? Kate said, "Are you buzzing for the new M Night or what?" So James not seen the trailer. I will give my opinions on what
I
I've
don't watch
seen.
trailers.
It's Josh Hartnett, and it talks about the butcher. And it turns out that he takes his daughter to a concert, which looks like potentially like a Swiftie concert or something like that. But it turns out like it's a trap to get a guy called the Butcher, and we're trying to work out, is Josh Hartnett the Butcher? Is he the murderer? They're all looking for.
I guess M. Night Shyamalan's
I like
career
the
was
idea of
going
it.
was going up, massive trajectory. Then it went right rock bottom,
I
like
think
the
it's gone
stock
up
market,
again.
and it's gone up again. Yeah,
I feel like
agree.
he's leveled it out.
And let's
Hopefully
hope that
exactly the same.
Snyder's got that same energy in him.
Just said the same. Yeah, I hope Zach
Oh,
does
did
the
you?
same.
Sorry, I didn't hear
No,
that.
it's all right. Then I'm sorry. This was. Oh gosh,
You're struggling with these questions.
So many
man.
questions.
Shall I do it? I've got them up.
I need glasses. Genuinely, I'm picking them up next week. So, Kate Reviews Film says Snyder has a great eye for small actors. Of the Rebel Moon crew, whose career are you watching? Sorry, I missed that earlier.
I'm really sorry, but I don't. At the moment, I don't care.
James, like none of them.
No, I just none of them show me enough. None of them were allowed to show me enough. Ed Screen, and Jaimin Hanzu. Let's give him some more roles because he's
done
got
enough.
lots of roles.
Ed-
I
Ed-
want to see him more.
Ed Screen is the one where
Sophia Boutella is good. Like she's
had-
decent with what she's got. Like
I think she's going to be in other things and have like. I feel like she could carry other.
they've not got
horror
enough to
or
work
action
with. Really,
sequences.
I don't.
There's not
I don't think
enough for
any
her
of
to
the
do.
actors have really got enough to work with to really shine. In all fairness, like.
Ed Screen is my one. Like he was in All the Light You Cannot See as well, the Netflix adaptation, and he was playing a Nazi in that, and he was evil and brilliant, and just like I think he's got a lot to go for him. He'd be a great Bond bad guy. Or to be honest, why not a Bond? That'd be interesting. Excuse me.
No, we've got
Why not?
We've got Aaron Taylor Joy, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Who
sorry.
cares?
I've got
yeah,
mixed
we
up
might
with
do.
Anya Taylor Joy and Aaron Taylor Johnson.
And then M Night / it equals Jordan Peele. Discuss.
No, M Night, as in Arrow, as in greater than Jordan Peele. Discuss.
Oh,
I'm going to be honest.
I'm not
right?
doing the questions ever again, by the way.
I know, mate.
Suck at it.
There's a reason why.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's not for our listeners.
Sorry.
Please rate us 5 stars. I would say that probably no one wants to hear it, but I agree. Like, I do agree. Jordan Peele's done. He's done Get Out, which is absolute banger, like brilliant film. He's done Us, which is good, and he's done Nope, which is nope. I really didn't like it. So I would
That's
actually
funny.
say that M. Night Shyamalan has like
Better
4. I would say
M. Night's been
overall,
going longer, hasn't he? So
he's been
gonna
going
have more.
longer, but I would say that M. Night's got 1, 2, 3, 4 decent films, and 1, 2, 3, 4 brilliant films, and 5 shiters. So that's what I'd say. As I would say that, like, Jordan Peele, give us some more,
And more
I
judge.
might do and yeah, because if Jordan Peele went on the trajectory, he carried on doing stuff like Us, then yeah, it'd probably be like
not
nearly
everything
close to
can be
him.
a 10 out of 10, though, can it? Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
Get Out was Jordan Peele's, like, oh my god, what an introduction. So that's great. And I think we've got what, a couple more?
Yeah, Kim's.Horror Escape said, are they overhated, this in relation to the directors, or do you just like bad movies? Tongue out face, it's okay. I genuinely do believe
Snyder. We've covered this on the earlier pod, but I do think he gets extraordinary hate because I feel like you sent me an article from The Guardian being like the director people love to hate.
Yeah.
And like his divisiveness sells films now as well. That's part of his marketing appeal at Netflix. But anyway,
You do.
with
Go on, sorry. I thought you were done.
sorry, and then quickly, just touching on with M. Night, I feel like I've not seen enough of them to really go into it, but I know he has a reputation for being a bit 50-50, let's say, being kind. But I just feel like it's a style, isn't it? And I do respect anyone who's funding their own films as well, like directing and writing them and
Well,
like
M.
funding
Night
a lot
generally
of
does
them.
fund his own films, yeah.
You know,
I would say that, like, I would say that probably Zack Snyder and M. Night, actually, like, 2 great examples, do probably get far more hate than they deserve. I think Zack Snyder at this point now has less of a leg to stand on, but he also gets an extraordinary. I do think people are like a bit more weighted towards, yeah, let's jump on the We Hate Snyder train, kind of because of his fans. Like,
is everything wrong with modern cinema?
Yeah.
Like people love saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like, he only does good visuals. He can't write a story. Well, maybe that's
kind of true. I'd agree with that.
But look, it's just like, yeah, I feel like
His fans.
Some-
The problem with Snyder is that he has these like hardcore fans who are dickheads, and they kind of like they're there. They're kind of
removes
part of
any nuance.
Do you know what? I would actually say it's probably like, I would say it's like quite close to, like, you could compare it to Taylor Swift, really, because Taylor Swift has like she's the most popular artist in the world without a doubt, and she has fans that are obsessed with her for a reason. I think she's fine. Like, I don't really care. She's got a few bangers, but she has like a cult following almost. She also, because of that cult following, there are people
that's
out
her
there.
reputation.
Yeah, there are people out there that hate her guts for no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that people love her. And so that is exactly the same as Snyder for me. Is that he has fans that are like really, really passionate about him as a person, because he's a decent person. He's made some comic book films. He's made some great films. But then the whole release of Snyder Cut thing, like, there was a lot of fans
Death
like
threats.
there was a lot of fans being like really not very nice, and so that then caused the other people to the people that didn't really like him to be like, oh, I now hate him. So I think that yeah, the
fandom around it's been the problem.
Yeah,
But
it's
same with
definitely
Star
over-
Wars. Like the Last Jedi stuff with Ryan Johnson. It's a similar thing. Like
it's the best. It's the best film out of the
I'm not. I can't
sequels.
get
No,
into
it is,
that.
well, it is by far. So
Do you know what
you
though?
are
I
gonna get
still
into
said, and I don't think I'm even taking the piss. I still said Rebel Moon Part 2 is probably better than Rise of Skywalker even now, because Rise of Skywalker is still trash. Anyway,
But so I don't. Do I think they're overhated? Probably a little bit, but at the same time, like, when people are hated so much, they're probably not. Maybe the people. I would find that the other side of the pendulum is the people that would think his films are all right will tend to put another couple of stars on there to like make up for the hate, I reckon. Anyway,
last question from David Ellis before I go for my dinner because I am very hungry. My tummy is rumbling. It is so my question, not actually a question, is name your favourite film from a director whose work you generally don't like, and your least favourite film from a director whose work you usually love. I mean,
The second part of that question is quite easy after doing Rebel Moon Part 2, probably.
yeah.
name your favourite film from a director whose work you generally don't
So
like.
I would say, do you know what? Like, I would quite easily say, well, it's a recent one. It's a bit of a cop out, but I could say from Jonathan Glazer. I hate Under the Skin with a passion.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I love
for you.
I love so much Zone of Interest. So I would say that that's probably the best shout I have in my locker. Oh God, I also love Sexy Beast actually. So maybe that's a bit of
Your
a bad.
least favourite film from a director whose work you
Alex
usually
Garland.
love.
Here we go. I've got a perfect Alex Garland. So Alex Garland, I was just thinking that I cannot stand. Again, a bit strong. I don't mean I can't stand. I don't really like any of Alex Garland's films except Ex Machina. So
I love Ex Machina.
Ex Machina is brilliant. I think Annihilation is. I find him quite
Pretentious at points, maybe.
extremely pretentious. So yeah, I would say. I'm just, you know what? No, sorry. I'm just looking at Alex Garland's a far better writer than he is a director because he wrote 28 Days Later, Dread, Sunshine.
Oh yeah, he's done loads of. He did
Well, he's
loads
right,
of stuff
yeah,
with Danny
as a writer,
Boyle.
so-
yeah.
But he's a good example of like. He's a good example of a writer that is a brilliant writer, and people again. I'm talking rubbish because I just don't like Annihilation. So there we go.
Fair enough.
Have you got any in there, John?
I'm trying. Well, your least favourite film from a director whose work you usually love. I was trying to think of James Cameron films that I'm not that into. For example, I was trying to see if there was like a specific one.
I can't think of any really off the top of my head. But easily, like I would say that. What was the second part of the question? Name your favorite film from a director whose work you generally. No, sorry.
It's the other way around. Name your favourite film from a director whose work you generally don't like. I'm so easygoing. I don't really have many people I don't like. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Well, that's good. That's real good listening. Well, anyway. Well, no, we haven't answered the other one. Least favorite film from a director whose work you generally love. Okay, cool. That's quite easy for me, to be honest. So, Tarantino, my least favorite film from him would be Jackie Brown. Yeah, exactly. But some people love it.
Some people think it's his best.
Huh?
Some people think it's his best, don't they?
Yeah. Let me tell you that Martin Scorsese. So let me tell you my least favorite film from Martin Scorsese. If I could ever pick one. The Last Temptation of Christ maybe would be my least favourite film, but I still think that's pretty good.
I'm trying to think of my least favourite Hitchcock.
I'm like trying really hard to like wrap my brains like what's the worst one, but
Yeah.
it's not.
And then let me tell
Torn
you.
Curtain. Oh my god, Torn Curtain. Prime example.
You don't like
That's
Torn
a great
Curtain,
shout.
do you?
So right, that's like the death of like. You get like a really good pretty much 50s, 60s like this on the whole. Few ripples, but going up like Jamie said, like the stock market. And then when you get to Marnie, it's starting to go down. But I still really enjoy Marnie. And then Torn Curtain's like, it's just such a drop off, and it's dull as well. It's just a dull film. Yeah, and as you can tell, I usually love Hitchcock.
I mean the only one the other director I would mention would be Spielberg, because he's got some films that he's a director that I absolutely love so much, but he's also done some stinkers. Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, which would be one of them, and the other one that I thought was just okay was Ready Player One. But I mean the rest.
He didn't
I think
make that film though, did he? I feel like that film is one of those that's so computer generated. I just didn't really buy into like the whole.
You don't think he's done anything? He's just put his name on it.
I feel like he shoved his name on it, and then a load of people in previs were like, "Yeah, great."
Yeah,
I might be completely wrong. That's me being a dick, but
so yeah, I mean that's about it, isn't it? So, right. So as always, please, we've still got t-shirts to sell, so please help me get rid of them out of my house. We have not got that many left, but we've still got all sizes. You can find that at MoviesinaPODshell.sumupstore.com. Please go on Spotify and iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and please rate us 5 stars. We only accept 5 stars, of course, and it really just genuinely helps us out because it means that we go higher in rankings, so people will see us. You can find us on YouTube. Type in Movies in a Podshell, all one word, Tony. Thank you very much. You'll find us there. And yeah, as always, you can find me at Movies in a Podshell. John, where can they find you?
At jcb.video.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think the next pod we're doing would be
Challenges.
Challenges. There we go. Challenges.
With something.
And maybe we'll do the holdovers. I don't know what the theme will be, but I love the holdovers so much. It's just been released in 4K, so I'm going to take it around John's. He's got no choice, and we're going to watch it. All right? Cool. Right.
See ya.
See ya.